It was July 20th, 1969, and someone did what no one had ever done before. Do you know what it was? Neil Armstrong left the Earth, took a spaceship into space, went to the moon 250,000 miles, and stood on the surface of the moon. And when he did that, they asked him to look back and look at Earth and describe it. And when you look at Earth from the moon, it looks like a blue planet. No one knew that before. But Neil Armstrong stood there and looked back at Earth and saw the blue planet, and he was asked to describe it, and he said, "It's ineffable. It's ineffable. I can't even describe what I'm looking at." That's a word that has fascinated me. So ineffable means that nobody's done it before, and it's almost impossible to explain. We're looking at the book of Matthew. We're in Matthew chapter 1, and we are in a passage that is ineffable. Because here's what happens. Jesus comes to the blue planet. Look at chapter 1, verse 18. Now the birth of Jesus was as follows. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Jesus, before they came together, she was found to be with child by the Holy Spirit. You see, here's Matthew's job. He's describing something that's never happened before. So there's three things I want to talk about today, and that these three things are things that cannot be explained. Here's the first one. The first one is you can't explain the unthinkable place that God sent his son. So can you imagine? Jesus is in heaven. Jesus is in heaven. It's a perfect place. It's sin-free. There's no sinners in heaven. And he has to go visit the blue planet. And that blue planet is filled with sin. And he knows that when he visits that blue planet, he's going to be rejected. He's going to be denied. He's going to be crucified. And he's going to be put to death. It's unexplainable, unthinkable, the place where God has sent his son. That's the first thing. Here's the next thing that you can't explain. You can't explain the difficult spot in chapter 1 of Matthew for Mary and Joseph. Just imagine for a minute Mary. She is a young girl and she is expecting a baby. She's never had relations with a man before, and she's expecting a baby. Imagine her walking around town with her mom and dad, showing at this point. And all the people that see her, all the moms that are walking their little girls around saying, "Don't go over by that girl. She's one of those girls." It's a difficult spot for Mary. Imagine the spot that Joseph's in. Look at verse 19. It says, "And Joseph, her husband, being a righteous man and not wanting to disgrace her, planned to send her away secretly." Think about the difficult, unexplainable position of Joseph. How difficult it was for him. He's about to end this relationship. That's how difficult it was. Imagine, Mary had told him, "I've been faithful." But all signs are that she's expecting a baby, and they've never had relations before. It's got to bring some questions into his mind. Can you imagine Joseph walking around town, and he's looking at the eyes of every guy that passes Mary? He's looking at Mary's eyes. Is she looking at this guy in a particular way? Maybe that's the person. Maybe it's not what Mary really described to me, Joseph thinks. Verse 20, finally, Joseph gets his answer in chapter 1. "But when he had considered this, sending her away, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, 'Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, for the child who has been conceived in her was conceived by,'" and in my Bible, I put a blank right there, because that's the answer that Joseph's looking for. Who conceived this child? And you know what Matthew says? "For the child was conceived by the Holy Spirit." And I want you to think of how difficult it was for Mary and Joseph. So here's the third thing you can't explain. The third thing you can't explain in this passage, chapter 1 of Matthew, is the privileged place of the church, the privileged place of the local church. In verse 23 of chapter 1, It says, quoting the Old Testament, "Behold, the virgin shall be with child and shall bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel," which means God with us. Do you know that's the only time in the New Testament that the word Emmanuel is mentioned? And here's the privileged position of the church. We get to go and tell the world that God has visited the blue planet. He paid an extremely high price. He rose from the dead. And as the local church, we have an opportunity to tell the world about the visit of God to the blue planet. Go and tell your friends this week that the Messiah has visited the blue planet. Have a great day.